We want to bring in Governor Doug Burgum. He's been watching along with us this morning. And we have lots of things that we could talk to you about election-wise, but I know that you were at the convention. You probably had a chance to meet some of these family members of the 13 who had died and get your thoughts this morning of President Trump spending his day today getting started at Arlington National Ceremony, recognizing those 13.
Well, Brett and Dana, thank you for providing live coverage of this. And of course, President Trump, who deeply respects our military and our veterans. This is so typical of him taking time to recognize these folks. But I think that I want to touch on what General Keane said. I mean, when he talked about pinning the rose, we got to pin the rose not just on Biden, but on Harris. She brags about being the last person in the room with Biden when they made this decision. And as he said, they made it for date certain, and that date certain was chosen for political reasons. As you know, governor, one of the greatest and most solemn honors of being governor is you're the commander-in-chief of the North Dakota National Guard. And 3 years ago, as we were approaching the 20th memorial, where we're going to recognize those who had died in the war on terror in North Dakota since 9/11 forward, you know, this disastrous withdrawal occurred. And, you know, we found ourselves, you know, with Gold Star families, you know, asking, wow, my son died in, you know, Afghanistan, you know, during the war on terror. Does that mean anything or not? And I think that it's not just for these families, but for all Gold Star families that are watching today. Thank you for bringing attention to this issue, because this is why we need President Trump back as our commander-in-chief, somebody who understands how the world works and understands what we need to do to keep our nation prosperous and the world safe.
Hey, Governor, it's Brett Baer. Let's talk about the campaign here. Speaker Johnson has come out and said this about Vice President Harris, that it's a sugar high. Democrats are on a sugar high. Everybody's acknowledged that, and I think that that gets real after Labor Day. I think that Kamala Harris is about to be put to the real test. Where do you see this race, and you know, how important is that first debate in the minds of the Trump campaign?
Well, I think where we are in this race is again unprecedented. We've never had a candidate that's 10 weeks away from an election that's never had to answer a question and never had to do an interview. I mean, this has never happened in the history of our democracy, and I think we have to, you know, ask ourselves, you know, where's the role of the voters? Not just, we can't just blame mainstream media, but where are the voters? The voters ought to be demanding that they understand her positions. Biden ran from the basement. Harris is maybe out in public, but her policies and her thoughts about which direction the country might go is in a vault inside the basement, and nobody understands that. Voters deserve and should have the opportunity to understand what she's really thinking. Otherwise, we just have to assume that her day one is actually going to be the day, not just her first day is the next day of the Biden-Harris administration, but it's really like the beginning of the fourth term of the Obama-Biden-Harris ruling coalition.
It is so interesting the way that that's all working out. As people try to figure out the math, how many would it be? So Quentin Tarantino, he was on Bill Maher's show over the weekend, and he had thoughts about what she should or shouldn't do when it comes to interviews. Watch here.
I mean, you see Kamala. I mean, I'm glad she's doing well. I'm glad we have a real fight now for president, but doesn't talk to the press.
I think they're just all about winning the election, all right? And then the easiest path to winning the election, look, you can talk about maybe she should have had more guts about this or that and the other, but we're president.
And one of her spokespeople from the campaign, the deputy campaign manager, said that she did 80+ interviews before she became the nominee. So they think that maybe they've checked the box on that. Though we do believe she said she would do an interview before August 31st. So the clock's ticking on that too.
Well, it's hard to believe that we're talking about one interview, like that's a remarkable thing, because I think anybody who's ever been on the campaign trail and run for president knows, you know, you can't walk out of a pizza ranch in Iowa, you know, without having 4 microphones from the embeds in your face answering questions every day. So this is, again, just remarkable and unprecedented. And I think we just have to take on face value that her policies are the Biden-Harris policies. And so that means we're going to have open borders. It means we're going to have Soviet-style price controls, and we're going to have continued explosions, wars, just like we've been covering this morning. The world is at war, and we're going to have more of that versus going back to what President Trump had, which is a, you know, secure border and a strong economy and peace overseas.
Governor, just to wrap it up on this debate, there was a Truth Social post from the former president which suggested he might be rethinking that after the weekend, watching ABC over the weekend and what he thought was a biased presentation of views. There's also a debate about the debate and the rules. The Kamala Harris campaign says, we believe both candidates' mics should be live throughout the full broadcast. Our understanding is that Trump's handlers prefer the muted microphone because they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own. The Trump campaign says if Kamala Harris isn't smart enough to repeat the messaging points her handlers want her to memorize, that's their problem. This seems to be a pattern for the Harris campaign about notes. This is all a debate about the debate, which the former president agreed to with the Biden campaign under the rules that were exactly the same as the CNN debate. So where is this? I mean, is the Trump campaign ready to move forward with this no matter what?
Well, I think the debate about the debate is going to continue to go on, and I think that the Harris campaign is going to continue to try to do what they're doing. They flip-flopped on everything else. They hide behind quotes from anonymous aides, and I think they'll do anything they can to try to get out of a debate with President Trump. And if that means, hey, we're going to keep asking for rules that are unreasonable and with complete bias and advantage to them, we'll just see where it happens to go. But I think they want to continue to, stay in the vault inside the basement. One way to do that is avoid a debate.
Governor Doug Burgum, thanks for joining us this morning and for going through the wreath-laying ceremony in Arlington. It was very moving to see, and we are glad you were with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Governor.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.